Hey there, story lovers! Welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, your cozy time for surprising tales. Today, we're going on a little journey through time, exploring the fascinating stories behind 5 words we use every day without a second thought. Words of wonder will be a recurring topic here at Storytelling, since the world of language has evolved and derived, and we are also curious and like researching. But before we start, I would like to ask you for your support and click on the follow or the subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. Now let's get started. Our first word is nice. Now, when you hear nice, you probably think of something pleasant, agreeable, maybe even kind. But believe it or not, nice didn't always have such a positive connotation. Back in the 13th century, nice actually meant ignorant or foolish. It derived from the Latin word nescius, meaning not knowing. So, if you call it nice back then, you weren't exactly paying them a compliment. Over time, the meaning shifted. By the 18th century, nice began to describe something delicate or refined. It wasn't until the 19th century that it finally took on the meaning we know today, something that is pleasant or agreeable. Now let's talk about the word awful. You might be surprised to learn that awful didn't always mean something terrible. Originally, awful meant inspiring awe. It was used to describe something that was impressive, majestic, and even divine. Think of it like feeling in awe in front of a breathtaking mountain range. That was the original sense of awful. Over time, the meaning shifted, and by the 19th century, awful began to be associated with something that caused fear or dread. So, how did a word meaning inspiring awe come to mean something terrible? Well, sometimes awe can be a bit overwhelming, even frightening. Perhaps that's why the meaning of awful gradually shifted from something inspiring to something terrifying. Now, our third word is a little bit silly. Well, actually, it's the word silly. We use silly to describe something that is foolish or amusing. But did you know that silly originally meant blessed or happy? It comes from the Old English word selig, which meant happy or fortunate. So, if you were calling someone silly back then, you were actually wishing them good fortune. Over time, the meaning shifted, and by the 14th century, silly began to describe someone who was weak or helpless. It wasn't until the 16th century that it took the meaning that we know today, something foolish or amusing. Now, let's explore survive, as in the word. You might think survive simply means to stay alive. While that's true, it originally had a much more specific meaning. Survive comes from the Latin words super, meaning above or beyond, and vivere, meaning to live. So initially, survive meant to live beyond something, like a disaster or a difficult situation. It carried a sense of overcoming and triumphing. And finally, we're going to talk about nice again. But this time, we're going to explain how we now use nice to describe someone who is kind, friendly, or pleasant. Nice comes from the French word Nice, which referred to the city of Nice in the southern France. In the 18th century, the city of Nice was a popular destination for wealthy and fashionable people. So, Nice, or nice, came to be associated with elegance, refinement, and sophistication. Over time, the association with elegance gradually shifted to describe someone with pleasant and agreeable qualities, which is how we use today. So, there you have it, 5 words we use every day and their surprising journeys through time. It just goes to show how language is constantly evolving and the meaning of words can change dramatically over time. And this was today's episode. Thank you for listening. And remember that if you would like to send your stories or a special topic to be shared in the next episodes, please send it to the Storytelling Podcast 8080 at gmail.com. And before you go, if you haven't done it already, I would love you for you to click on the follow or the subscribe button and see you on the next episode.